Hello, Zamzuu people. What a party. You know, I'm a scientist, and normally the kind of meetings that I go to, people don't have quite as much fun as you are. So I want to tell you how honored I am to be here today at the center of the Zamzuu universe, surrounded by a constellation of new Zamzuu stars. I'm Dr. Eloin Blyden, and I work with ST&T Consultants, as Bobby told you. And I'm going to talk to you today about food, health, futures. I purposefully gave a title that you could interpret in more than one way. And the problem is one that needs interpretation in many different ways. But at the core of it is the challenge that we face today in our country to get good nutrition. I'm sure all of you are aware of some of the problems that we have with our schools, with feeding our kids the right food, with getting the right food ourselves in our busy schedules. So those are the things I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk a little bit about the forces that are driving that change. And then I'm going to talk to you about how Zamzoo's new products can help you make a difference. So first, let me just thank the organizers for inviting us here today. Thanks for inviting us into your team. We've been very excited to work with Bobby on these products. So, quick summary of my presentation. My focus is really going to be on digging up what are these changes that are taking place in the way that we live that have got us into some of these issues over food. And again, we can see that living in a city is a problem. Our ancestors used to live on a farm. They could just go out in the backyard and pick lemons and apples. Of course, they had the fields full of potatoes or rice and whatever else, but we don't have that luxury anymore. We live in a city, and all our food has to be delivered to us. That means that when the price of oil goes up, the price of food goes up, and we have to eat probably less good quality food than we might want to buy. One thing good about this economic downturn, though, is that it has created a mood of self-determination in this country. And that's why I am so excited that Zamzuu is now turning its efforts towards this critical problem of how to make all of us healthier people. So, what are these forces driving change? If you are, I used to work as a consultant in the developing world, and one of the things that we used as a guide is something that we call the right to food. It's a little bit like a civil right or, you know, your human rights. And I'm going to read this out to you just as a general background. It says, the right to adequate food is realized when every man, woman, and child, alone or in community with others, has the physical and economic access at all times to adequate food or some way of getting it. So these are some of the things to consider in light of that. If we want to achieve that goal, if we want to make sure that everybody's getting the right type of food at the right time, then we have to consider that our individual actions are important in that process. What the choices we personally make about our own health and about what we eat have implications in the community. We need to promote better health. Ultimately, health care is wealth care. If you are well, then you will work harder and you will be wealthier. Seems like a no-brainer. I believe the Zamzuu business model is ideally suited for this kind of change that we need. So your food nutrition choices, I want to give you an analogy. If you were going to buy stock for your 401k, you'd make sure you read all the analyst reports, you'd read all the press releases and news articles you could find about that company before you put your valuable dollars into it, right? Okay. Do any of you have a 401k anymore? Well, it's the same thing with nutrition. We as scientists, we think about food and nutrition in that way because depending on the quality of what you eat, you'll either make a profit in your future health or you'll make a loss. If you eat the wrong things, your health will deteriorate. You'll lose days on the job, you'll fall sick, you'll have medical bills. I don't have to tell you. Similarly, if we make sure that when we go into the store and we're picking a product, we look at the label and we look at what we are investing in our own bodies, then we can ensure that we have a profit for the future. And needless to say, that applies to our children. Now, the only graph I have in my presentation is this one. And I put it in here just because it really captures where we are in America right now over the time span that's just about the length of my life. At the time, around the time when I was born, you can see that green line up there was up around 8. And that represented the capacity of the country to produce food, good, nutritious food. On the left there, the units it's given is in hectares per person. Now, a hectare is about 2.5 acres. So basically, we're saying that it took about 20, 25 acres to feed each person and keep them going. It's not all food. There are other things mixed in there. But basically, it gives you some idea. That green productivity. What you can see is that over the years, that has steadily declined. Meanwhile, our ecological footprint, which is just another word for saying the amount that we consume, has been going up. And it even crossed over the green line so that we are actually eating more. It takes more to sustain us. It takes now close to 25 acres to sustain each one of us. And needless to say, not all of those acres are in the United States. A lot of our food is imported. What that does as far as nutrition is concerned is that it makes it harder for us to find good nutrition. Because even though we may be going to the store and seeing the same products that our parents and our grandparents saw, the amount of nutrition in that food is not the same as it was. If you pick broccoli today, it's got about 1/3 of the calcium that it used to have when your mother or your grandmother bought it all those years ago. So the challenge is quite complicated. And it's all because living in the city, the priority for the industry has to be how are we going to get it there fresh. It's no longer about how are we going to give you the best nutrition. So we have two ways to change that graph. We can either reduce that footprint, reduce our consumption, or we can increase our own personal capacity to improve our nutrition, improve our health. You can grow your own. If you have a garden, you can plant your own broccoli, plant your own fresh vegetables, or pay your local farmer, your local community garden. Or you can increase your personal capacity by staying fit and supplementing your diet. What we find, though, is that the nation is ready for this change now, and that's why you are so important here at Zamzuu. Because you're going to go out into the United States that is ready to garden, that is ready to go green, that is ready to improve its health. The findings from the Gardening Association show that food gardening is on the rise. More people are trying to plant gardens. The problem is, more people now live in the cities and they don't have space. One of the things, I work with a company that has, I put this slide in because it's just so funny to look at. But one of the things that people are trying to do is something called vertical gardening. In that urban context, if all you've got is a balcony or a patio or something like that, then there's this device that you can grow on, and you can see how happy that lady is with her tomatoes. I actually don't think she has problems with space. I think she just didn't want to dig up her lawn, that's all. Okay, so how do you improve that personal biocapacity, as I call it, your own biological energy that you need to put out there? We all have heard the expression, you are what you eat, but it's also true that you do what you eat. Your ability to realize your potential, to make those sales, will depend on what you eat, how good nutrition you get. Needless to say, your children's behavior at school has increasingly attracted the attention of the school boards and so forth, because of the fact that the things they were getting, the sodas, the quality of the food was so bad that they weren't able to learn properly. So here we are in a busy world, and we're challenged not only with what we eat, but how much of it we eat. We're challenged with when we can eat it. We're challenged in how to eat it and where to eat it. All of these things are about the new American culture. We're all different. We all have different diets. It's no longer true. In the old days, you'd go to the doctor and he'd say, take 2 of these with breakfast. Well, breakfast is totally different for all of us. Some of us just have a cup of coffee. Some of us have a full meal. And so within that, you need flexibility to supplement your diet in a way that suits you, that's portable, that you can take to work or take to a cafeteria or to school or wherever it is you think that it fits in your diet. This variation in the way that we eat is very evident in the medical statistics that we review regularly. And the example that I wanted to touch on briefly concerns the difference between maternal health. A study in Los Angeles found that minority Hispanics had much better health during their gestation period, simply because they were surrounded by a loving, caring family, that they'd all go to the park and walk in the evening afterwards. And they compared that with women who were much better off. They were much wealthier. They had, high-paying jobs, lived in the city. And what they found was that the women, even though they had more money, they lived maybe in a better neighborhood, had better access in a way to nutrition and food, they were so stressed out that they had more problems during their pregnancies than these so-called poorer people in the society. So again, the thing about Zamzoo's products, these 2 products you're going to hear about today, is that they give all of us a certain amount of empowerment to change our own diets. And the Zamzuu business model gives you the power to take that out and change your communities as well. I'm just going to run through these 3 slides. I took these pictures in Oakland before I came, and it just gives you that sense of how different culturally we are and how that impacts our food choices, our access to nutrition. These pictures were all taken within a few blocks of each other. This one is Chinatown. As you can see, there's a lot of choice there. There's even a choice of the price. You can have the price in Chinese, or you can have the price in English. This next one is taken a little bit away in the city center, and again, you can see this barren concrete jungle and, typical fast food type of setup. And this third one was taken just a little bit further on Foothill Boulevard, and you can see my blood pressure going up with each of these pictures. You can see the difference in the tension in these pictures. The first one was interactive. The guy had a chance to look at color and decide what he thought was most nutritious, whereas here, probably you run in, they give you a box, and you run out again, and you only find out what you're going to eat when you, wherever you got to go. So ultimately, for all of us, I think prevention is better than cure. Right? Combining the right foods and supplements can prevent illness.